Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now Anthony Joshua has revealed that they've reached out to Oleksandr Usyk's team hoping that the Tyson Fury fight can be fought undisputed. This is what he had to say. I think Usyk will be keen to step aside and let the fight happen. He's a reasonable person and he'll understand the magnitude of this situation. So there we go, he seems to believe that Usyk will step aside and allow him to face Tyson Fury for undisputed. Now, I wouldn't expect Anthony Joshua to do too much with regards to vacating a title until the situation between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder has been resolved. Because what is Anthony Joshua going to do? Vacate a belt in the hope that Tyson Fury can fight him? Then he's lost the belt, whether he gets the Tyson Fury fight or not. So he's not going to do that. I would imagine that that is the motivation behind trying to get Usyk to step aside, so that it is for undisputed and so that he doesn't have to vacate a belt in the hope of getting a fight that he might not. So Usyk could step aside and he's going to get a healthy sum to do that as well. 7 figures I would imagine. So Usyk can have a fight in the interim, maybe against someone like, I don't know, Joseph Parker, maybe even Deontay Wilder. He has spoken about that. And Wilder has named Oleksandr Usyk. Whether he's interested or not, I guess we'll have to see. But there are fights that he can have in the interim, get 7 figures for stepping aside, and he's in a good place to still get a shot at that WBO world title, whoever may hold it in 2022. Now of course this is not the only situation that has to be resolved for AJ and Tyson Fury. There are many others, such as the Deontay Wilder situation, which is still undergoing mediation, which makes you wonder what is actually going on between those two, because this has been a lengthy process, but then it seems to be that way with anything that Deontay Wilder is involved with, a lengthy process. So clearly that fight is still on the table. It's not done just yet, but Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua seems like the one that will happen next, the most likely one. Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury might be on the back burner. It might happen down the line, but I don't see it happening next because I don't think that Deontay Wilder really has a case to put forward for that fight. And in all realness, I'm not even entirely sure that he wants it. But you know what, I guess at the end of the day, even if he doesn't, and he does get that opportunity to fight Tyson Fury for a third time, he can say, give me some step aside money and I'll let you go and fight Anthony Joshua, which Tyson Fury won't do because he's already explained he won't. So then it would be Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 3, because Fury has also explained that he would not give Deontay Wilder any step aside money, he'd rather beat him up in the ring. So that won't happen. Maybe that is what Deontay Wilder is looking to do, but it doesn't seem like it will work out. Maybe it will, but at the moment it does seem like the most likely fight is Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. This is the closest we've gotten to an undisputed fight. We never got this close with AJ versus Wilder. Nowhere near with sorting out the governing bodies, with sorting out other fights that could be mandated. So I think that this fight is in a very good place at the moment, and Eddie Hearn has explained he is going around the world looking at different places where these fights can be held. Not just Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, but maybe Oleksandr Usyk and someone else. Maybe Derek Chisora, maybe even Dillian Whyte, Alexander Povetkin. These fights have to happen. If they cannot happen in the UK, then they will go somewhere else. Eddie Hearn has also explained that he plans to announce 5 fights coming up very soon, 5 big fights, and one of them will be Dillian Whyte versus Povetkin 2. Now, they will happen in the UK, but if they cannot, they'll be taken abroad. They've got to get on, they've got to continue. That is what Eddie Hearn has said. So, boxing will keep going, and if it cannot happen in the UK, then it will go somewhere where it can. And that does also apply to Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. I don't think it's going to happen in the UK, not just because of the situation, but because of the money as well. He did say he's been looking at different places around the world to host this fight in May or June. The fight is not done, but progress is being made. That is what Eddie Hearn has explained. So this fight is clearly on the table, but they are sorting out the little wrinkles that need to be sorted. Financial terms have been agreed, which is the biggest stumbling block usually. So that is one positive thing, and probably the most difficult thing to overcome. One thing that Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder never got beyond. So hopefully these big fights do get made. Also, one thing that Eddie Hearn did say away from the Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury situation is regarding Callum Smith. He expects him to move up to light heavyweight, and after his defeat to Canelo, that is probably the best thing he can do. Now, he also spoken about the possibility of Callum Smith versus Joshua Buatsi as a potential fight he'd like to make for a world title. So that would be a good British showdown. That would be a big fight in the UK. Pay-per-view, they'd need a crowd there for that one though. Otherwise, again, that one would go abroad. But I wouldn't imagine that fight would happen this year. Joshua Buatsi's probably not ready just yet. He needs one more fight. And Callum Smith's not going to go into a fight like that, just moving up to light heavyweight. If he does, then kudos to him. What an incredible statement that would be for both of them to do that, especially considering the current climate. Then fair play to them. Now again, what Eddie Hearn also spoken about was Amir Khan and Kell Brook, who could fight in 2021. Eddie Hearn said that he has messaged Amir Khan and wants to talk to him when he gets back from Dubai about making this fight happen in 2021, this year. So at the moment, I think that this fight is more possible now than it ever has been, because for one reason. Where do they go? Where does Kell Brook go? Where does Amir Khan go? For another world title? Amir Khan's lost to Terence Crawford. He isn't beating Errol Spence. He can go for Ugas, but not a big fight, and it's a really risky fight anyway. So where does he go? Where does Kell Brook go? He's lost to Errol Spence. He's lost definitively to Terence Crawford. So where does he go from here? The only route they have is toward one another. If they want a big main pay-per-view event, that is the way to do it, by fighting one another. There is no other option now. That is why this fight is a genuine possibility. And is it still exciting? A little bit. There's intrigue. What would happen in this fight? I guess we would like to know, so I guess we would watch it. So that is a big potential fight for 2021. Huge in the UK, but again, that does depend upon the situation when that time comes. I would expect it to be a lot better though by the time that fight could be made, which is going to be summer, I would imagine. So if that happens in what, May, June, maybe July, then that would be fine, I would imagine. They could have potentially a crowd there. For that kind of fight again, just as Callum Smith versus Joshua Buatsi, that would need a crowd there for it to make any kind of sense. And talking of big fights, Canelo has spoken about his next move and what he plans to do next in 2021 in the 168 division. He's now WBC World Champion, WBA World Champion and Ring Magazine World Champion. Four-weight legitimate World Champion is Canelo. Now he plans to move on, potentially fighting Billy Joe Saunders, potentially fighting Caleb Plant. And he wants to unify, become undisputed in that division. Now, also Gennady Golovkin's name came up. This is what he had to say about Triple G. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I already did my job by beating him twice. I feel I'm at my peak. If it happens for a third time, I feel so good that I could most likely knock him out and do some serious damage. So there we go, that is Canelo's assessment of Gennady Golovkin. Would he beat him in a third fight? I think that, considering he's beat him once, which was very controversial, and there was a draw, and if you consider where Golovkin is now, you would have to wonder, what are Golovkin's chances? Canelo would be a heavy favourite in that fight just because of what he's achieved in the last few years, considering he's a raw 30 years old still. He's still young, and Golovkin is what, 38? It's not just his age, it's the fights he's been in. So considering that, you would have to put Canelo as a hefty favourite going into that fight. Everything points towards Canelo, and Golovkin, what can he do in that fight to win? Even if he does get it down to the narrow, like 6 rounds apiece, maybe it should be a draw. It's not really going to be a draw, is it? So ultimately, Gennady Golovkin taking that fight, he would have to really consider how good that is for his career. Now talking about Canelo and his camp, Ryan Garcia in the coming days will be ordered to fight Devin Haney. They are going to give him some time to celebrate his win over Luke Campbell. That is what Maurizio Sulaiman has said, but he has confirmed that it will be Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. That will be announced in the coming days, or ordered in the coming days. They will have to make a deal for that. So that is a huge fight that could happen this year, or it will happen this year. Who do you have winning that fight? In my opinion, I think that Ryan Garcia probably has the better win on his resume now due to beating Luke Campbell, but there were cracks that emerged in that fight, but he overcame them. So considering he's a raw, 22, 23, there's plenty of which he can improve on, and plenty of which he will going into that fight. So maybe the momentum is with Ryan Garcia at the moment. But Devin Haney is a solid competitor. He is the world champion, or if you want to call him the world champion because of the franchise situation, in my opinion, Teofimo Lopez is the undisputed lightweight champion. Devin Haney does have a version of the WBC, but come on, let's not take anything away from Teofimo Lopez. He is the #1 undisputed champion in that division. Now, the winner of Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia facing him, that is a blockbuster mega event. What a division that lightweight division is at the moment. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on all of this? Pick your best subject and leave a comment in the comments down below. Make sure you also leave a like and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.